Hi, everyone. We're live at Walmart Connect's Content Studio here at CES, and we're so excited to talk about artificial intelligence and the role it's playing in agentic commerce. With me, we have Shakir Moin, the president of marketing from Coca-Cola, and Amy Andrews, the president of Mars Commerce. We're really excited to get in and have a good conversation. One of the things that we think about at Walmart is how do we use technology to solve everyday customer problems? And we're going to learn from two of the brightest leaders in the industry about how they're thinking about this new space and how they're going to use this technology to drive growth. Amy and Shakir, you've watched customer expectations evolve while helping build some of the world's biggest brands. We're beginning to see this happening again with AI, creating the next wave of innovation. Let's start getting into it. Today, e-commerce feels like a very product search heavy type of experience. But with AI, discovery can begin with an occasion, a need state, or habits that a customer wants to build. Shakir, how do you see these capabilities changing the way customers shop?
Thank you, Carl. So I think the way we are seeing changes happening is, as a global company, having the vantage point of looking at other markets, especially China, we've seen the evolution of e-commerce moving into social commerce and how creators have used e-commerce as a mode and a medium to build brand equity. So it's not only a search engine for looking for a product and buying it at the best price, but understanding an experience that a consumer can have using that particular product. That, I think, was at a early stages in pre-AI era. We are seeing acceleration of that, and we are expecting to see that as a major shift from e-commerce into social commerce. So the way we are visualizing and seeing our brand sort of emerge in the process is a place where it is not only about transaction, and it won't be transactional. It would be an equity driver as well.
So performance, brand building, and sales driving activities converging
All
together.
in one. Yes.
That's fascinating. And Amy, what about you?
Yeah, I think similarly, we're looking at how the whole funnel collapses. And with social commerce or with agentic commerce, it's really changing how we think about discoverability, right? So it used to be, how do we bring people all the way through the funnel? Now that funnel can collapse and it can happen in a matter of seconds. And how we discover things, I think, is becoming so much more, not just relevant, but intimate. So I was chatting with Shakir earlier that, I was able to ask ChatGPT this morning, like, what should I do for my skin in Vegas because it's so dry? And not only do I get a skincare solution, but I get a total solution. I should get more sleep. Yes, because we're in Vegas.
Good luck.
I know, right? But also I should be drinking more water. And then it knows that I have purchased smart water before and offers me, hey, do you want to get some smart water delivered to your hotel? Which is a great pro tip for anyone in Vegas, skincare or not, because it's delivered to the room, which is just amazing that you can have that kind of contraction of the funnel and discoverability based on all of my past purchases and all of my past prompts into those engines.
We're seeing a personalization play a key role in making AI more effective at solving those everyday problems for consumers at Walmart. That makes perfect sense. It's obviously going to have a big impact in how we have brands show up. How are you thinking about how this changes how you operate to make sure your brands are winning in this new type of an environment?
Sure. I think for all of our clients, we have always been looking at how do we win across every single shelf. And the agentic shelf is really no different. It's thinking about how can we deliver the best benefits to shoppers in those spaces. We often talk about RTBs, and in national, that's reason to believe. When we get into the shopper space, it's often the reason to buy. I think now we're talking about what's the reason to belong in the conversation, and not just one conversation, but all of the conversations. And to your point on personalization, I think there's so much exciting content that we can create in this space so that we're delivering really hyper-relevant, very intimate conversations to each one of our individual shoppers.
Shakir, what about you?
Like for us, the change has been transformational. So the way we looked at it was over the last 70 years. So since 1950, with the explosion of television, consumer product good companies like Coca-Cola have excelled at scale. right? Big ideas, great ideas, but ensuring that maximum number of people see it, engage it, and see it again and again and again, and getting the headspace as early and as deeply as possible. And what we are changing the shift towards is what we're calling de-averaging at scale. So our advantage remains our great scale across the country, but the ability to use that scale, to Amy's point, be more personalized to consumers. Now, theoretically, we should speak to every one of 330 million Americans singularly. Now, at this point in time, difficult, expensive, and perhaps not feasible. But equally, the idea that we're going to have a single conversation to all 330 million Americans is not that effective anymore. So what we have been working on is evolving our capability radically on this notion of de-averaging at scale to find pockets where growth sets in and be super relevant on those pockets. So where we have evolved to now is to look at the country at a zip code level and understand the needs of our consumers over there. We have a wide portfolio of beverages, obviously Coca-Cola, but Fairlife milk or Smart Water or Body Armor sports drink. So what is the right solution that our consumers need for a specific occasion, and deliver that message and that ability to connect the message to now commerce is something that is doable and doable at scale that creates value for our partners like Walmart and for ourselves as well.
I mean, food service is something that Coca-Cola has done incredibly well. You're best in class. I see you doing that in Europe and South America, certainly here in America. And I think just applying those types of principles to drive consumption at a personalized level is just an untapped opportunity. It's a huge focus for us at Walmart. We're thinking about using recipes and meal occasions to grow our total retail footprint. We see beverage as a huge opportunity to do that. So just exciting to see you go from 330 million people down to a single zip code.
And then, Kyle, to take that example, and actually some discussions that we're having with you guys at Walmart is, if you think of human behavior across a week, like what we eat over a weekend is different from what we eat on Monday versus Tuesday versus Wednesday versus Thursday. And then across different socioeconomic groups, social groups is different consumption patterns. So taking that idea of recipes and making that relevant by a day, and creating that relevance with consumers and offering them something that's going to bring value to them, and in the process creating value for ourselves, is sort of the direction that we're heading towards.
And that utility saves a customer time. It can save them money eating at home instead of going out. That's a benefit for the brand, the consumer, and the retailer.
100%.
What tips would you say that you'd have for other brands that are looking to experiment in this phase? What are some principles or some tactics that you'd suggest people think about?
Yeah, I would say it's interesting. We have spent so much time as marketers trying to be concise, and this is almost the opposite strategy, right? Like, how do we feed these agents with more information? So my favorite example is on our product detail pages, right? We've tried to say, what's that small piece of content, that perfect word or perfect image that's going to drive conversion in 3 seconds or less? Now we have the opportunity to upload in the text-based user manuals because the shopper might not have time to read that, but the agent does. And then can take all of that content and, to Shakir's point, maybe start to tailor it even to what are the different conversations that our 300 million U.S. consumers are having. So I think it's a different approach than we've had before of scaling back. It's almost, how do we continue to feed agents with more content on product detail pages, more content on Reddit. For ChatGPT, 40% of the sources are coming from Reddit today. So how do we think about Reddit as part of our commerce strategy? Like, those have been very distinct before. And I think the blurring of those lines is getting even more necessary in order to continue to feed enough content and enough information in order to drive those personalized conversations.
More convergence, to Shakira's earlier point.
Yes.
Shakira, anything to add on this?
Agree, and this is an add-on on to what Amy sort of mentioned, is I think with in the pre-AI world, if we made a mistake, the chance that we're going to make the same mistake again was always there, right? And we'd always say, listen, let's make a mistake and let's not make the same mistake again. But with AI, what we're learning is if the AI made a mistake or if a human made the mistake, it would be the last mistake that would ever be made, because it will learn and you would always be better off. Which means, to Amy's point, we gotta be in a constant learning and trial mindset. And I think that the tip or advice to marketers, or at least we are pushing ourselves on, is that we don't have all the answers, but we gotta be in a deep learning mode with all of our partners to find solutions to new opportunities and in some cases new problems. Because failure is an option, and the learning ability is allowing us to be better with every single failure. It's a learning model that's going to make us, that is making us smarter.
I think it's also a different approach to testing and learning. Like, we can't test and learn in the same way because of the speed at which it's evolving. So I love that point on the failures. I mean, we always say we want to fail fast, but we have to. I think there's risk in not doing that in this space because we'll just be left behind.
Yeah, not enough experimentation is worse than failure. And also just the speed is picking up. And so I think we all need to give ourselves permission to try things and fail more, do it together. But I loved your point, particularly Shakir, on once you're applying these learnings, they're self-reinforcing. You don't make the same mistake twice. That's how you drive incremental improvement over time. That's how we're going to drive real unlocks for our industry. One of the other things that you see when there's a platform shift is when people change how they're buying, they change what they buy. A good example of that for Walmart is impulse shopping. Impulse is a big part of our brick and mortar business. It's less prevalent in an e-commerce environment. I'm curious, is there some type of an occasion, whether it's impulse or something else, that you think agentic commerce can be a standout opportunity for growth for brands?
I think for ourselves, it's there are products that lean towards more on functionality. Like if I think of core power and what protein is sort of has emerged as a trend, what it's doing for consumers, people learning about this, that's more of a deliberate choice when people are making those choices, looking at ingredients much more deeply and trying to figure out whether they're going to pick up product X versus product Y, versus an experience that Amy just had where she was looking for a different solution and a beverage came in a problem. And I don't know how to even categorize that, whether it was impulse or planned, because it was neither. It was neither impulse nor planned. And the third bit is true impulse shopping, which is a known behavior where I know I'm going to walk in, I know I want to buy exactly that product. I hope it is available. It is on the shelf, digital or physical, and it's at the right price and it's the right form. I think surely in the short term, but our assumption is that even in the mid and long, those three behaviors would continue to exist. What we've got to be open on is by product category and product types, be very clear on the attribution model behind each one of them. What are the key drivers of the three? And how can we influence this to serve our consumers better?
Yeah, you're addressing the need state, which is much more than a product or level discovery. It's a relationship that you're building with the consumer. That's fascinating. Amy, anything to add?
I would just say, I think in addition to the product level, there's also that opportunity, going back to what you said earlier, Shakir, at the audience level. And how do we think about, maybe there's not a core power impulse for every person, but certainly for the core power audience. I think there's something interesting, even as we're talking about it now. I think we're still defaulting to shoppers prompting AI versus a true agentic purchase, and a true agentic impulse purchase might be, we know that this shopper would be interested in a new core power flavor. And if they have opted into an agent shopping for them, maybe at a certain price point, we could buy that for them and send it to them. Smart water could be waiting in my next hotel room without me hitting any type of buy button. So I think it's actually a really interesting space for impulse if we think about it in really hyper-targeted ways.
It's fascinating. I mean, it could be as simple as a push notification, or it could be actually extending that decision-making to your trusted agent and being surprised and delighted.
Yes.
The Amy example is fascinating, Kyle, because we are constantly pushing ourselves on, are the brand building models of tomorrow are going to change, or actually today.
Yeah.
And we were discussing literally a similar example recently. This is almost more than a decade back. I checked into a hotel in Singapore, and I'd moved from Malaysia to Singapore. And at that time, I used to love M&Ms. I still do, but I'm watching my sugar content. So I checked
Mars.
into the hotel. I love M&Ms. I checked into the hotel, and on the television they had 3 packets of M&Ms and 2 Diet Cokes with a letter from the GM welcoming me and saying, "Well, we know you like this, and therefore complimentary from the hotel." And to your point, that incredibly changed my perception around that particular hotel chain. Now, that idea was only possible because the chain in Malaysia had my information, and they very smartly used it for the same hotel chain in Singapore. Now, for us to do that without having that access to information only in a certain vertical, but just broadly, is a very different brand engagement model than classical messaging communication.
Yeah, well, it goes to 2 things, right? Like the first is the underlying data is what informs AI and the opportunities to go personalize an experience and deliver a better outcome. So without good data or something to enhance the experience, you're limited in what you can achieve. And the other thing is, that was one hotel room. Now do we take that back to your ambition of reaching 330 million Americans in that same way? I love it. That's fascinating. We've talked a lot about agentic commerce and where it's heading. We know that this could have a big impact on retail media, e-commerce, advertising, all that. But I would love to understand more than anything, how do you think agentic commerce can unlock growth for brands? Maybe Shakir, we could start with you.
I think the great thing that at least we are excited about on agentic commerce is the democratization of information, which means truly it will raise the bar for every company to build the right products to serve the right particular need. And obviously trial will continue to happen and adoption will continue to happen, but I think information is gonna supersede the decision funnel. And to Amy's point earlier, the collapsing on the funnel is the big shift that's gonna either disrupt or gonna be a big enabler for this. We have been using this term internally that disruption should be our playground. There was a time when we used to say, disruption is a headwind and it's a force and we gotta figure out how to navigate. But now internally in Coca-Cola, we say disruption should be our playground. And agentic commerce is a disruption, and we are sort of going in heads forward into it as a playground to experiment and learn, which means changing multiple ways with which we are engaging with consumers, with platforms, but how do we ensure that the right information is embedded in large language models, LLMs, ensuring that we learn how information is being picked up as agentic shopping or agentic commerce is happening, and then having the learning loops to deeply understand how transactions are happening. So it is making us sort of redesign our entire marketing organization right now in North America to be hopefully ahead of the curve versus being ready of the curve when the curve hits us.
You sound like a 10-year-old tech startup in Silicon Valley, not a 100-year-old multinational global CPG in Atlanta. That's phenomenal. Amy, anything to add?
I love all that. I think it's definitely a learning playground. I think one of the things that's most exciting is we're going to get to know our shoppers better than ever before at a very different, deeper individual identity level. And, there's just so many different queries, right? I think I read something there's like 50 million a day that are shopping related. All of that information is only going to feed not just the marketing and messaging, but the total experiences that we're bringing to shoppers. So I think it's a really exciting time to be in this commerce space.
That's great. Last question for you both. What hopes do you have for how Walmart and brands can work together to create an experience in agentic commerce that unlocks growth for everyone?
I hope we can keep up with our shoppers. I think it's moving so quickly. I think Walmart and Coca-Cola and many of our brands, including Publicis and Mars United within it, we're all big companies who, even when we say we move fast, are pretty clunky. And I think this is a space where shoppers right now are moving faster than we are, and we have to fail fast. We have to try new things together. And because it's so uncharted, I think partnerships with Walmart and partnerships in general, maybe even with, some competition or friendly foes is going to be necessary for us to all move forward together.
And for us, Kyle, it's the authenticity and relevance that Walmart has brought to shoppers in the US. The ability now for brands like us to continue to partner with Walmart to deepen this and make it relevant for ideally every single shopper, but if not every single, but at least large cohorts for shopper, where they would say that when Walmart and Coca-Cola brought rotisserie chicken to me on a Wednesday, it was the best possible meal that I could have had. And thank you, Walmart, for doing this. And hopefully, I had a Coca-Cola at the table to do this. I think that's what gets me excited in our continued partnership to do so. The other thing is that I love every time I meet the Walmart team is the ambition for big problems and, trying to tackle that and being consistently discontent with the growth that we have. And that pushes us, that's our mindset as well. We are consistently discontent with whatever is happening. And I think that's why we love working with the Walmart team, with the progression that you guys continue to have.
Well, we want to thank you both so much for your partnership. We've talked a lot today about agentic commerce. It's clear that it's coming. It's clear that it's going to change the way that consumers and brands both behave. I'm really optimistic that this is going to be a growth driver for the industry. And I personally learned a lot. So I just want to huge thanks to Amy and to Shakir for your expertise.